Welcome back. So, how did I get into biking, Harleys and all that good stuff? Well, I blame my dad. Good influence on me. I was very lucky in the mid-70s to go to America with the family, and of course that left a great impression of muscle cars and the whole hippie chopper lifestyle and stuff like that, which we got to see to some extent, especially if you were coming from Britain in 1975 when it was a 3-day week and you didn't have any power for 48 hours and it was freezing cold and it's horrible, and out there it was just lovely. As to biking, again, that's my dad's fault, because when I used to cycle back from school, as you did when you were a kid, we lived on a very steep hill, and I used to struggle getting up that hill, but I did it. But my dad on his Honda C50 would ride up alongside me, stick his left hand out, put it on my back, and push me up the hill at 30 miles an hour. And it was just like, this is awesome. We should all be travelling like this. That was just an eye-opener, how to travel up hills at a ridiculous speed and not be shagged out by the end of it. So in 1981, I got my provisional licence, and he let me ride his Honda C50 about, which was entertaining because it wasn't restricted, and people on their mopeds would pull up alongside, and you would be looking desperately uncool on a Honda C50 moped until you got to about 30 miles an hour and Honda C50 went, off it went, and bye-bye. Yeah, it was topped out about 45, I think, if I remember rightly. So that was great fun. Then less than a year later, I got my own bike, got a little Honda 125, and I kept that for about a year. Passed my part 1 and part 2 on that, and then in 83 I bought a Suzuki GS550L, which I kept until I had my accident. In fact, it was the bike I had my accident on. Then in 1984 I lost my job, got made redundant, so I took up being a dispatch rider. So this was quite early on in my riding career, if you like, and of course taught me how to ride around London, really. But you know, we go in for the first time, you're the last bike in a queue of 30 bikes hacking through the traffic. A month later, you're the one at the front hacking through the traffic and everyone following. So I kind of learnt to ride like that, and if I do some riding videos, you'll probably see me filtering through traffic as if it, doesn't bother me. It's how I learnt. Also around that time, I bought a GPZ 900R, which I kept for about a year and a half. In the end, I sold it and got a Z550 simply because it was like, I want to keep my licence. But I did ride it all the way up to Scotland, right up to North Scotland, in a day. So that was quite an epic journey. It was a great bike, far better than I was a rider. But yeah, self-preservation kicked in. I'd always been interested in the custom bike scene, and I went to a few of the shows, not that many. Did Bath and South West in 84, and the Bulldog Bash. Well, I went to the first Bulldog Bash, so Riders' Rights Day and stuff like that. So I did do quite a bit of the social stuff, but yeah, in the end, my GS550, I decided I always wanted a Harley, but could never afford one. I mean, even back in the 80s, if you wanted like an FXR or something like that, they were over $5,000. Well, why would you spend $5,000 on a Harley when you can buy the top of the range Japanese bike for $3,000? It was crazy. So I decided to build something, and I took the GS550, and with the help of Desperate Dan, Chris Ireland, over at Leighton Buzzard, he basically stuck a Yamaha XS1100 TR1 engine in, and it ended up in Backstreet Heroes, which was kind of cool. In fact, first of a few bikes I've had in Backstreet Heroes, and I did do a fair amount of the work myself. Yeah, I was quite proud of that. Unfortunately, yeah, like I said, that was the bike that got smashed to bits. And around that time I learnt to drive as well. So life was kind of progressing. Always was doing factory work because I did dispatched for about a year. But in the early 80s I was building computers at research machines, and then I went on and did electronics work at Tame, and then worked for Oxford Magnet Technology, working there for a year, and it was all factory work, electronics work, nothing sort of career orientated. I like factory work because 5 o'clock you walked out and you forgot it till the next day. You'd go and do whatever you wanted. You didn't work weekends, you didn't work evenings, unless it was overtime, of course. And when I had my accident, I was doing factory work, and which I'll cover in another video. But I carried on doing factory work, although ultimately, of course, ended up in a completely different field. So kind of the 1980s was a typical teenager growing up, learning to drive, relationships, motorbikes, friends, family. Nothing particularly outstanding. Little bit of travel, but you know, out having fun as we all did. By the end of the 80s, 1990, it was kind of like, it's time you moved out. Oh, really? So, my mates had done it, so it was kind of like, yeah, about time I started growing up and getting my shit together. And so I kind of started thinking about how to move out, what would be the best thing to do, where to live, and all that sort of stuff. And was probably going to do it in 91. But then, of course, everything changed. Right. See you next time.